I have no idea who this is, but I could probably talk for 10 minutes about this because that's just so awesome. Stinky Brown. These guys had a contract. These guys had a whole... I always say that to people that, like, if you want to get into music, go to a local CD store, go to a record store, and go through the used and on sale stuff and look at all of the bands that you have no idea, you've never heard of them. They all released albums, they all had contracts, they all had complete lives, you never heard of them. If you're comfortable with that, of looking through hundreds and hundreds of stacks of people that never were successful beyond getting that initial thing, like, keep that in mind. So here's a song, unfortunately, is as relevant as ever. I wrote it a couple of years ago. It's an unreleased song of mine, but it still resonates, especially if you watch the news or have eyes or ears. This is called The Least That You Can Do. It seems like half the world's on fire, the other half is drowning. And happiness is hard to feel when all the world is frowning. Children suffer, parents cry, lives are torn asunder. It sometimes feels there's no relief to all the weight we're under. Bullets fly and airplanes crash and nation invades nation. And we're all doing what we can to fix the situation. Now, what if I told you I'd found a way to fix disaster? A simple cure to mend all ills that anyone can master. Please listen as I offer up a cure with no compunction. My remedy involves just 2 words and 1 conjunction. Thoughts and prayers. Just offer up thoughts and prayers. The perfect way to fix a mess with guaranteed success. And best of all, this effort is 100% effortless. Thoughts and prayers. Just offer up thoughts and prayers. The first and only response from you for crises old and new. It's heartfelt and it's humble, and it's the least that you can do, literally. Thoughts and prayers, the perfect way to put on airs. You can announce to all without discretion this glib expression and offer up the one phrase no one ever seems to question. Thoughts and prayers, like rearranging the Titanic's deck chairs, checking the pressure of the Hindenburg's air, buying soup for Linda Blair. So what, it doesn't solve a thing, it shows you care, you really care. Anyone can use these words, they are the best we've got. And they can solve your problems if by solve you mean do squat. But they make you feel good, and that's a universal animus. Who cares if they do any good? You get to feel magnanimous. Oh, thoughts and prayers, like some cheap linguistic laissez-faire. Perfect pronouncements for a public display. It's just the thing to say, and by doing this you just imply you hope the problem goes away. Thoughts and prayers, often from billionaires. It's a kind of sacrifice, you see. Why can't we all agree? I've said 3 words, is that enough? Just how much do you want from me? A thought and a prayer from politician or charge d'affaires. Instead of passing some legislation or a regulation. So what if you're elected? Why should you cut short your own vacation? A prayer and a thought, it's like a badge of honor you just bought. You're cashing in on all the lives that were lost, the hopes and dreams that were tossed. I think you are confusing priceless with no cost, and yet sometimes someone grabs a box and fills it with some stuff, or volunteers, or lends a hand, or does a job that's tough. You're doing God's work, they say, but somehow misconstrue it. Of course we have to do God's work, it's not like God will do it. Oh, thoughts and prayers, I've had enough of your thoughts and prayers. My intention is not to displease, but I am ill at ease with how all your investment stops right after all your sympathies. Thoughts and prayers, I'm distraught with this entire affair. Even though your moral sense may be stinking, here's a thought I'm thinking. I pray you're never gonna have to deal with any trauma. But if you do, I'll be sending out my thoughts and prayers to you. And then you'll see how much good it'll do. Not creepy at all. Not creepy at all. Hi kids, wanna sing some songs? Look at that, not creepy at all. This is perhaps my most favorite band. This was my first band that was mine. This was something I discovered through the help of my dad, who took me to the movies. Talking Heads had a film in 1983 called Stop Making Sense that was in the theaters, directed by Jonathan Demme, the guy that did Silence of the Lambs. It was an early film of his that he directed. And my dad didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was, but he heard it was cool, so he said, let's go see this thing, and it completely blew me away. I became a huge Talking Heads fan, bought everything I could possibly buy, including this record, which is more songs about buildings and food. I grabbed this because I have a podcast that I've been doing for 16 years now, which is insane. But for my birthday every year, I always do an album cover. I record an entire album cover. And last year I did this record because it's such a great protozoic album for Talking Heads. You hear, this is their second record. You hear everything that they're gonna become by the time they get to Burning Down the House and like the big, Once in a Lifetime. It's all within these songs. Like there's these little snippets and hints of what the future is going to be for this band, which is so wonderful. Once you are a fan, especially if you're going backwards, if you know Stop Making Sense, if you know Speaking in Tongues and all the hits of this band, you go back and you hear, Warning Sign or Stay Hungry. Stay Hungry is a song that's on here that it's like it encapsulates the entire career of Talking Heads, because it starts out straightforward, it gets kind of weird, and then it gets very groove oriented and funky and fun, all in the span of 4 minutes. So I love this record, and the fact that this cover also, again, this is all Polaroid shots that were taken of the band close up that were put into this montage, this mosaic, because they were all graphic artist students, or 3 of them were anyway. So and you can see much more so than on a cassette or on a CD or on an iTunes icon, the interesting work that's gone into this and everything. So, and then in the back, I think this is all the rivers, I think, in the United States. I think it's all the water in the United States. I'm not sure. Which, the last song is Take Me to the River, so it's kind of like cool. Okay, so that's this one. This is not the singer from Yes. Speaking of Yes, this is a different John Anderson. This is a John Anderson with an H, country guy, if you're ever confused. All right, here's another one. Let me just preface this by saying everything in this song is 100% true. That's all I'm going to say. People ask me why I broke into a jail. It's 'cause all my friends were there. Then I preached from a Wendy's while just clad in underwear. I stole a telephone pole and then I denied it. I stole a cop car with a cop still inside it. But to be clear, I was not drinking and driving. I only drank at the red lights. Then I walked out of the Walmart gingerly with steak and lobster down my tights. If you don't believe me, you can be forgiven. You'll understand when I tell you what state I live in. I am a Florida man. I am a Florida man. From Jacksonville to Lakeland, I am a Florida man. avoid an arrest. The fake name was wanted too. Was caught shoplifting at the Kohl's downtown. I was there for a job interview. The cops looked at me as if I was lying when I said the cocaine in my nose wasn't mine. Was asked to leave the park because karate can't be practiced on swans and ducks. I stole a bunch of rare coins worth $30K. The coin star gave me $30. I tried to pay for Mickey D's with weed. Tried to use my own mixtape as ID. Why? I am a Florida man. I am a Florida man. In the handle of the pen, I am a Florida man. Now don't go feeling all superior and assume that I am somehow inferior. Though my living room furniture is out of doors, please remember that my vote counts the same as yours, maybe more. I had relations with a miniature horse, but I wore protection just in case. Put on a bull costume, then used pasta sauce to burn down my ex's place. Called 911 when all my vodka ran out. Attacked my family with homemade sauerkraut. Was arrested riding a manatee. Used the public library computer to print out my own counterfeit money. As you listen, there's one thing you must do, and that's believe every word of this is true. Yes, it's true. It's true. Why? I am a Florida man. I am a Florida man with a limited attention span. I am a Florida man. Oh, man. All True headlines. All Real is a great website. You put in your birthday and all the headlines from Florida come up. And you can just find story after story, all true stories.
This was surprisingly okay. This is the new one that was put out a couple years ago, which was surprisingly okay. Prince Among Thieves, that's a different thing.
I grabbed this because last night I went and saw the Steel Stacks here in Bethlehem. We're showing this movie, the movie that's based on this record, or the record that's based on this movie. The 35th anniversary print of Sign of the Times. This album is really fascinating. It's a double album, and what's particularly interesting is apart from one or two cuts on here, it's all demos. Prince, if you're unfamiliar with how, like, when you're recording an album, you make a demo, like a demonstration basically, which is a simplified version of the thing that's going to be eventually recorded. You bring that to the studio and then you add to it. So you get rid of the drums, you put drums on it, you put guitar, you put vocals, but it's just a reference thing. Well, Prince is such a bloody genius that he made the demos for this, and he liked the way the demos sounded so much that he basically just kept the demos. So this is in essence an album of demos. There's a couple exceptions. And it's just brilliant. It's just stupidly brilliant. Sign of the Times, a very dark song, but funky and cool. And yes, gone much too soon, Mr. Prince there.
That's his actual name too, which is cool. Prince Rogers Nelson. That's his actual name. The actual name is Prince. It's like it was fated to be. Kiss is a band that I don't listen to them at all, but I'm fascinated by. I'm so interested in just their life and what they do, but the music does nothing for me. It's like the most inverse relationship of interest and actual music appreciation. So we're going to get a little funky, and a little philosophy, a little philosophunk for you. This is one of my happier songs. This is called Everything Alive Will Die Someday. Will die someday, and that's okay. It's the great equating factor in the world. Like some desiccated tractor, we all run out of gas. This life can't last, 'cause everything alive will die someday. I used to worry that my folks would someday die, 'cause that meant if they could, then that meant so could I. Too young to handle this morose philosophy. I'd rather get high my way, climbing up a tree, and staring at the huge small world I could survey. I wondered what it'd feel like on that final day, then calculated the heartbeats left in my lot, then realized I'd best relax and just enjoy the time I've got. And I'd remember everything alive will die someday, and that's okay. From the single cellular to grandiose, seems we're all destined to be toast. Every leaf, bush, shrub, and tree will cease to be, 'cause everything alive will die someday. Every empire crumbles, every mammoth stumbles to the ground. Ally and enemy both kick the bucket equally, and in this truth there lies a fact. If you ignore those who distract, you might come to realize the fairness of unfairness is in everything's demise. You should remember everything alive will die someday, and that's hard to say, but to me it's more a blessing than a curse. Is this a chorus or a weird verse? Every hand that's ever writ will up and quit, 'cause everything alive will die someday. But in the meantime, I get to see you smile, and that makes it okay for a while. To look into your eyes is worth the eventual demise of Earth and of every living cell. What the hell? We get to be like Deborah and Clive for a few days. Let's all remember that everything alive will die someday. But let me say, you shouldn't do just whatever you will. Don't ever cause any ill and historic reversal. Don't you know this is the only chance you've got? It ought to mean an awful lot. This is the show and not some rehearsal. Talk of an extra inning implies this is just some beginning, but there's no prize you will be winning. Your existence is enough of a reward to keep you grinning, or at least it should be. Like I mentioned, I have a podcast that I do every week. That's at geologicpodcast.com. We're on show 772 we posted this week, which is insane, but there you go. What's nice about my last name, Hrab, is you Google that and the first 47,000 things are me. So georgehrab.com, or just Google Hrab, George J. Hrab on Instagram and the Facebook and the thing and the blah and the YouTube and all that. But yeah, if you're interested, I'm on iTunes and all that other stuff as well. But yeah, yay independent music stores. Yay independent CD record stores. Yay, yay, yay.